Well, we are back. We are back. That was the Liberty's coach, and we are joined by Lauren, but she goes by Lo, so we're going to go by Lo. And I don't want to mispronounce your last name. How do I say it? Lo.
Dreher.
Dreher. Okay, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Lo Dreher. So welcome. She is a
Hey.
founding member of the committee.
Big Lo in the building.
And I just really want to plug the committee because if you're unfamiliar, I mean, Lo does a lot. She's a contributor for the WNBA, but I have grown to become a big fan of her. And as someone who is a part of growing the game, we know Tarika is a part of that as well. But there's all kinds of creators and people who are coming up, and Lo is one of them. And she puts out great content. Her analysis is great, and I'm so excited to have you on. But you know, she's a founding member of the committee, and I keep saying this because they are just doing great things. If you're not tuned in, you need to get tapped in with the committee sports group. Follow them on WNBA Twitter. Follow them. They have so much great content, and she's one of the founders behind it. So thank you and welcome to the show.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for having me.
Hey. I definitely want to give a shout out to Lo because I was just talking about you yesterday because you were instrumental in helping your baby girl, one of your students, get to the basketball game. And the game that she made it to was the game where A'Ja dropped 53.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Best teacher ever, period.
Period. A'Ja dropped 53. Ryan Howard, who helped her get there, had a game, was her. So if this is going to be your first WNBA experience, that's actually, that's the kind of experience that you want to have.
And she got to meet Ryan too, right?
Mm-hmm, she did. Ryan was very sweet about it. She gave her a VIP band to go in the back, but she took a little long, so she even came out after the fact to come to the front just to get a picture with her, and that's really special. So I appreciate Ryan for that. For sure.
So on the ground, helping to grow the game. Thank you. We appreciate your efforts. So let's talk about this game that we love, because last night was a big night in the W. It was a big night in the W. Okay, so Tarika, I was certain that the game was over. I thought that the Sun had this, and I'm gonna tell you, I stopped watching. I went to go do some other things. I was like, oh, they got this. And all of a sudden it was a game. So what happened? You were there, you covered the Connecticut Sun. Talk to me. What happened? How did this breakdown occur?
I wish I could tell you. I was sitting courtside and I couldn't figure it out. I was so completely lost, but I'm gonna tell you, it was for a couple of things that were on the surface. Number one, you got to be smart you got to be very self-aware of where you are on the court, especially when you play in the Liberty. And there were a lot of miscues throughout the end of that game where Connecticut just wasn't making smart defensive plays. Number two, Stewie finally remembered she was Stewie in the fourth quarter. And she showed up in a big way. JJ had held it down for majority of the game. Sabrina came in her spots in the fourth quarter, but Breanna Stewart showed up and showed why she is absolutely an MVP candidate, specifically in the last 5 minutes of the game. It was a 75-81 game with 37 seconds left on the clock in the fourth quarter. So that lets you know the type of determination and perseverance that New York has, but also how you can't make mental mistakes at the end of the game. And now a lot of that was happening on the Connecticut side of the ball, specifically on the inbound pass where DeWanna Bonner loses the ball. It was a wild ending. So those are the two things for me. Got to be better where your court awareness, and Stewie did Stewie things when it mattered the most.
What did you see, Lo?
Yeah. Connecticut went to bed. Girlies. I mean, they had it. The Connecticut, they simply just wet the bed. And I think I always talk about New York's depth, and I think that's kind of the opposite for Connecticut. And they just look like they just ran out of gas. The mistakes that they start making are things that they just don't do. That simple inbound pass, come on now. That's something simple. I just think mental fatigue, they look tired, and they just kind of wet the bed. And that's just what I think happened, really. That's it.
Yeah.
They just went to bed.
This is the second time that has happened too, because in their last matchup against New York, it was Dejanay Carrington had an incredible game, 23 points, and they were leading in the fourth quarter and didn't score for the final 3 minutes. I think the end of the score ended up being like 81-89 or something like that. But like, you got to be able to close in those kinds of moments. When you can't close, like you really, like, there's no way you're going to be able to compete with the best of the best when you can't finish and you had a 20-point lead.
Right. They just ran out of gas, man.
Well, there was a lot of buzz around this game, not just because it's like the two top teams in the East, but also because it was a battle of MVP candidates. And we heard, the coach weighing in before the game. And so Stewie did MVP things, as you mentioned, Tarika, but AlyssaThomas also, even though the Sun did not get the win, she got another double-double and broke the WNBA record for single season double-doubles, right? So now she stands at the top, and I'm sure she's going to get some more before the season ends. So when you were last here, Tarika, you were asked a question about the MVP race. We asked you, who did you think was the leader? And we reframed it around A'Ja and Stewie, but you made it a point to say, listen, don't forget AlyssaThomas. But you, at the time, you thought Stewie was probably the front runner. What do you think now at this point?
So to be clear, I said Stewie was the front runner between her and A'Ja at that moment. However, at that moment, because that was right after the Vegas's loss to New York, and Stewie ball. So that was what that was. But I have, for at least the last 3 months, and even at the beginning of the season when I was making predictions, I have always been Team AT. And I know people are going to think I'm biased because I covered Connecticut, but honestly, it don't have nothing to do with that. It really has. If I had to list 1, 2, and 3 right now, I have AT, A'Ja, Stewie. That's my 3. A'Ja is incredible. I mean, there is absolutely nothing you can do to take away from what she does because she's incredible. The thing that puts AT over the top for me is simply because I don't know where this Connecticut team would be without her. Like, and she's doing things that historically have never, ever been done in this league before. Regardless of who you think your favorite player is, regardless of who you love back in the day, whether it was Coop, whether it was Swoops, whether it was Sylvia Fowles, whoever it was, nobody has ever recorded 24 double-doubles in a season. No one has ever had as many triple-doubles as she has. No one has ever done several other things in Connecticut history that she's ever done. I think that New York and Las Vegas, maybe not 1 and 2, but would still very much be contenders or playoff contenders without their MVP standouts. I don't think Connecticut's in the top 8 without AT. That's what does it for me. Now, to be fair, I'm also changing my mind from week to week because they keep playing so damn good. But right now for me, AT, A'Ja, Stewie.
What about you, Lo? Where do you stand on the MVP race?
A'Ja, Breanna, Wilson, 1, 2, 3. Period. That's my race. But like you said, I feel like all three of them are doing so much. So it's literally like you said, every other day. It's like, ooh, it's A'Ja. Ooh, it's Stewie. Ooh, it's AT. Like, you really don't know. Like, this thing really switches up day to day to day. And I feel like every one of them has done things this season that's like, you deserve MVP. You deserve MVP. You deserve MVP. Like, it's a really tough decision. And like, I really think it switches day to day. I think I'm glad I don't have to vote, maybe because I don't want no parts of making that decision. It's every day it's just something different. I feel like all three are carrying their teams. I feel like it's interesting because Stewie and A'Ja, positions have kind of swapped. I feel like in the beginning, Stewie was kind of carrying the girls, like they weren't together yet. And A'Ja was still doing her thing, but her team was a little more, well-rounded. They still are, but it is a little different, right? Now I feel like they completely swapped. I feel like Stewie's team is now, they turning it up. As a whole, they are hooping. And the Aces have been real wildly as of late. So I think so I think that's very interesting. But all three, I'm glad I'm going to
For real. Yeah. For real. It's hard.
I feel like this is going to really come down to like the end of the season, probably. We're seeing the odds according to DraftKings here. And so it does have Breanna in a slight lead over A'Ja and then AT third. But I mean, Connecticut makes a little run at the end of the season. And again, we don't know. We know different things, storylines, sway the voting. But, I don't know. For me, if I had to vote right now, it would be A'Ja. But I have a very like traditional, maybe some people would say old school approach. I'm very much like best player on the best team. And, and I feel like with all of the just everything that the Aces are doing this season, right? Like last night, they just 30 wins, most in WNBA history for the win record. And A'Ja 53-point game, right? Tied Liz Cambage's record. And not just that, but I mean, she's also a dual threat and Stewie is all of them really, but like, she's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. I think and again, because I'm someone who's a big fan of Steph Curry and the Warriors, I think teams that are perceived to be loaded sometimes, I feel like the stars don't always get the proper credit on those teams because it's like, well, they're loaded anyway and don't realize, how much they're really doing. And I think with Candace out, and Tarika, you pointed this out before too, the fact that like people were kind of saying like, oh, they don't need Candace. And I think as the season went on, we came to see that they really do. And I think this is where you really seen like A'Ja, step up even more than she already has this season, right? Because they had a few losses more than they typically would have. And so she came out and was like, listen, and she just took over in that last game. Well, not the last game because they played again last night and they just, cruised to a win. But so A'Ja would have my vote if it was right now. But I think you can't go wrong with any of the three personally.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to be honest. I can't argue against anybody's argument. I just can't. When the arguments start, I just be like, you right, because you right. I can't argue against the argument. Like anyone who says A'Ja's my MVP, you right. I get it. I get it.
What is interesting to me though, Lo? So the power rankings this week came out and, the committee along with others put out power rankings and many put the Liberty ahead of the Aces for the first time, basically for the season. It had been Aces all year. The committee didn't. But what are your thoughts on the power rankings? Do you agree? Should the Aces still be at the top? And they shifted a little bit. What do you think about that?
I think the finally on the post was very telling. But besides that, I believe I feel it. I'm cool with it. They are peaking. I feel like they had a very good week. And then Vegas had that loss. They beat up on them. So yeah, I'm cool with that. That's fine. I'm not talking about that at all. Makes sense.
Oh, okay, but there are a lot of other teams to me that have been standing out, right? Minnesota changed their season all around. The Sparks are on a 5-game win streak, looking to make it 6 tonight. Tarika, you've been up on this. You said they were coming, right? So the Sparks are making a run. They're moving up in the standings. You also have, like I said, Minnesota. They're moving up. So what do you see for the rest of the teams around the league? It's always about the Aces and the Liberty, and then the Sun probably don't get as much attention as they should. But what about some of these other teams?
For me, I think that the Sparks definitely need to be on everybody's radar. If you aren't paying attention to Jordan Canada right now, I don't know what you're doing, because Jordan is absolutely balling, and she's one of the reasons that this team. She's in the MIP conversation for me. For me, it's between her and Satu. Okay. For me, it's between her and Satu. So I don't it's crazy between her and Satu. For me, it juggles from week to week. There's a game I'm looking like Jordan, that's it, it's her, and then I'll see Satu and I'll be like, well, dang, Satu, it's you too. I don't know, Nat. Stop asking me these questions. I do not have an answer for you.
Okay, but Lo, for you, it seems like
it's Jordan. It's Jordan, period. I don't think to me, it's not a discussion. Because, like I always say, I feel like Jordan was fighting for a spot in this league, period. Jordan couldn't be trusted with the ball. Jordan couldn't be trusted on the court. Satu, we always knew she was a unicorn. We always knew Satu could be. How she gotten better, absolutely. So I would never take that from her. But Satu is Satu. She's been doing this. We didn't have no faith in Jordan. We would have never thought that Jordan would be carrying the team. It's Jordan.
That's a very good point.
Jordan's a big reason, right, for this run they're on. But what else do you both attribute to what we're seeing from the Sparks right now?
A'Ja finally is being used, and she finally remembered I'm that girl. Because I know when she left Chicago, for me, I was like, this could be MIP. Like, she is the next to me, and the next, to be a star in this league. And she kind of started off a little wonky, but now she's owning who she is. I'm that girl, and she's doing that. Period.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also add health too. Like, this team kind of didn't get a chance to really gel like they wanted to because they had a lot of players that were injured, weren't really able to come back. So they weren't really able to find a lot of continuity. But like, now you're starting to see that continuity come into place and at the right time. You don't ever want to peak too early. Like, now is a great time to start feeling like you're building that chemistry with your team, because we're only a couple of weeks away from the postseason. So I agree with you that as Ray is doing her thing, A'Ja showing up, that veteran leadership from A'Ja, Nneka always gonna be Nneka. She always gonna do her. She always gonna do her. And then you add Jordan with that, like, to me it makes sense. Like, I never expected them to be a bottom of the barrel team. Injuries really gotten in the way of that to me. But that's what I see for sure.
Could they be a sneaky team come the postseason? I mean, they did just beat the Aces.
But they played the Aces close early on in the season. Y'all remember that game? They played the Aces really, really tough. And then the injury set in. So I'm not surprised. So I think I don't want to play. I don't want to see them.
We in the same. We on the same lift there, Lo, because I'm like, to me, the two teams that I do not want to see in the postseason is, I would not want to see the Sparks and I would not want to see the Wings. I know that they have had inconsistencies in terms of, there were moments where you were like, do y'all remember how to play defense? But then when you think about that size, Natasha Howard, she's balling. Satu, we talked about. Arike can do whatever she want, whenever she want, however she want to do it. I do not want to, and we can't even sleep on Crystal Dangerfield either, because she has absolutely shown up in some big moments and hit some big shots for that team. I don't want to see Dallas in the postseason. I don't.
It's Big T for me. It's Big T for me. When they play through Big T, curtains. Wrap it up, ready.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Wings, because even though they lost last night, there's some tension between them and the Lynx. So last night was a testy little game. The game they played before that was Satu's getting into it with fans, blowing kisses at them. I mean, look, apparently some of the fans were saying some things, cheering on the injury. So, she spoke out about it. She tweeted, she said it was disgusting. But, the coach spoke out about it. Like, they basically were like, no, we don't condone this. Nafisa spoke out about it. So it's not like anyone was like, encouraging this. The fans were kicked out, but it made for great TV, and it also made for a really good game last night. I'm actually very impressed with the Lynx. I just think the way that they turned around their season is crazy. So what do you guys think about the Lynx chances in the postseason? And Jess, you already said you don't want to see Dallas, but what do you think about what do you think about the Lynx?
I think they're doing their thing. I know they do have these 2 wins. I would still rather see many than Dallas, because I feel like you can get them on one of those nights that they might be a little off. But Cheryl can coach. They can tell you what they like. Cheryl is a phenomenal coach, period. And she got them working. She got them together. She got them playing hard. I think the emergence of Lindsay Allen, a very good point guard, pushes you a lot. And I think that is one of the keys. Like, she's doing her thing, but I think Lindsay Allen coming on strong as a PG, I think that helps them a lot as well.
Yeah, I'm a piggyback off that too. For me, I think anytime Nafisa is playing well and she giving you 30 points, you got a shot, right? So I'm not really surprised that they were able to try to make a comeback and turn their season around. But I think the thing for me that keeps me very skeptical of how deep they can go is them being able to put points on the board, right? Offensively, they have had moments where the only person scoring was Nafisa, and you can't do that. Like when you play in a team, like if they are now, I want to say they may be 6 seed or 7 seed. If you're going to have to go up against a Vegas or New York in the first round, you're going to have to outscore them because you're not going to stop them. So you're going to have to outscore them. And I mean, that's just the bottom line. You're not going to stop them. Right. But if Kayla McBride is on point and they get some additional assistance from Diamond Miller and Lindsay Allen, who you pointed out, like if you're starting, Dorka Yuha sometimes has amazing opportunities to put some points up when she takes advantage of them. If you can outscore them, then yeah, you got a shot. But their offense goes stagnant sometimes, and that's the biggest concern for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited. You guys know much more than me when it comes to the WNBA, but I'm just going to be candid. I love the super team storyline, and I want to see Aces versus Liberty in the finals. That's what I want to see. But shout out to all the other teams and all the other women because they're so great. But I just think it makes for like, and I know the games haven't been particularly close, so that seems a little odd, but I just think in a postseason final setting, and I'm hoping that Candace is back, like, I just think it'll be a great matchup, especially because things seem to be clicking for the Liberty right now. So that's what I want to see. I know you probably want to see the Sun, Tarika, so don't kill me.
I mean, listen, I want to work, so I mean, it helps me out.
Good point.
Lo, before we let you go, I just, LSU put out their non-conference schedule. Just curious about any thoughts on that? The reaction was sort of mixed on Twitter, so I'm curious what you thought about it.
I'm disappointed. I think they'll still be a good team because they got one of the best rosters in the country. They are deep. These girlies, like, they got a squad, and I think that's why my frustration comes because I like hoops. I want to see y'all like up against the best other girlies in the country. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see something, and I'm trying to go to like every SEC venue where I'm gonna pick. You know, like I want to see them play the best players because they got the team too. Like we want to see. You know what I mean? And I know we got SEC players, so that's an SEC start this year. But come on now, like we deserve the UConn LSU matchup. I don't care. We deserve it. We deserve it. Like. Y'all, those are my top two going into the season.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Lo, thank you so much. Brother from another debut. We loved you. You will definitely be back with us. Take care. So much. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.